Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Manatee County Bar Association General Membership Luncheon for October. Thanks for coming. We've got a really great program. We got quite a bit here to get through. Today's our tribute to veterans. And to start us off, I want to ask Judge Ferentz to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good job. All right. What a beautiful day we're having. It's really getting nice out there. I want to start with our announcements and general business. First of all, thank you to all our annual sponsors, Westminster Communities of Bradenton, Bar Prep Hero, South State Bank, LawPay, Firkins Automotive, Lucente Associates, Porges Hamlin, Knowles, and Hawk, and now Barnes Walker. So thanks to all of our sponsors, and we're excited to welcome Barnes Walker as another law firm sponsor to the association. So thank you very much for supporting this association. METV is also here filming today's event so that we've got a historical record and can share this with other people. And I want to thank Charles Clapsaddle and the METV team. So thank you very much, as always. All right, we will next announce our guests. Sorry if I omit anybody. Please announce yourself if I miss you. So we have Judge Smith, Judge Malachi, Judge Gould, Judge Doyle, Judge Steele, Judge Nicholas, Judge Mercurio, and Judge Arend. So thank you to the judges for attending. Got a good turnout. We also have Aaron Brocius. Did I say that wrong? A new member? Aaron, can you stand up? Okay, there's Aaron. Kevin Collier is a guest of Jeff Goethe. Kevin, are you here? Welcome. Who wrote this? I can't. Courtney Flandreau, new member. Courtney, welcome. And Angela Kolonesko, or Clark, is here today. Thank you. Angel, thank you. All right, well, thanks everybody. Did I miss anyone? So everyone's always welcome, and especially welcome the new members. Hopefully you'll get involved with the association and have some fun. Meet people. So today we're celebrating the service and sacrifice of our veterans. Veterans Day, as you know, is I believe November 11th, but we do it historically in October. So to start us off, here to sing America the Beautiful are Bill and Kathy Melvin from Suncoast Baptist Church Choir in Palmetto, Florida.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, guide God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine.
Thank you. That was beautiful. That was Bill and Kathy. You may have noticed today, I've been asked about it, up in the front, we have a table set for 13. However, the seats are empty. This is in honor of the 13 U.S. soldiers that were recently killed in Kabul, Afghanistan over the summer during the evacuation. METV has created a video memorial, and we ask to draw your attention to it on the screen at this time. Thank you, METV, for that tribute. That really brings it home. They're the best, and they're why we're free. All right, if I can get myself together. On to our standard business. So your lunch will be served throughout the program, so please enjoy it while we continue with the program. Please make sure you're opening and reading your weekly e-blasts and your emails from the association and your inter alia. That's how we communicate to you. All right, next, the YLD Hot Minute, Dustin Wagner.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dustin Wagner, the president of the Manatee YLD. In my hand is an autographed Rob Gronkowski football. This football can be yours for $10. We're selling raffle tickets in the back corner. You can buy one, you can buy three for $25, or you can buy an arm's length for $50. If you miss your opportunity today, you can also buy it at the holiday party. If you're not a big football fan, Gronkowski scored 2 touchdowns in the last Super Bowl. Pretty confident he's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. If you've got a niece, or a nephew, whoever that think might be a great gift for, take this in consideration. All proceeds will go to the Southeastern Guide Dogs. So you've got an opportunity to bring that bad boy home at the holiday party. The winner will be announced. Also, YLD, you're going to get an e-blast soon that we're collecting coats, hats, and gloves for Turning Points. They're in desperate need. They try to provide clothing to adults and kids, especially during the winter, that need them. So keep an eye out for an email. We're going to be collecting those through November 23rd. And we've got some other cool stuff coming your way as well. Buckle your seatbelts. Thank you.
How cool is that? All right. There's a virtual CLE on November 4th, which will be from noon to 1:30, sponsored by Grapevine Communications, entitled Enhancing Your Firm's Position Online. It includes 1.5 technology credits. If you want your firm to be found online, then you need to attend this CLE. So check your email on that, sign up. The Bar Association 100 Club is having its enrollment for the year. So if your firm has 100% of its attorneys as Bar Association members, you're eligible to be part of this group. Please send Grace Ann a list of your attorneys, and your firm will be included on our website and in the inter alia. Deadline has been extended to November 15th, but it will not reopen until next fall. Mark your calendars for the Bar Association annual holiday party. This year it'll be held at Heritage Harbor Golf Club on Friday, December 3rd. There will be a DJ, ugly sweater contest, and much more coming. You'll find your invitation in your email, inter alia, and weekly e-blast. Check your email. And do you sense a subliminal message here on checking your email? Law firms can now be annual sponsors of the association. Don't let Porges and Barnes suck it all up. If you would like your firm to be marketed in the inter alia, on our website, in our e-blast invitations, and even our executive director's email stamp, please email Grace Ann to find out more. It's actually costs less than the non-member sponsorships. Membership drive. This year we're having a membership drive. The top 3 members who are listed as referred by on the new member applications will win Amazon gift cards for $300, $150, and $50. Let your colleagues know why we're the best bar association in Florida and help spread the word. And we're getting a lot of new members, so I appreciate everybody doing that. The YLD and the Bar Association are selling raffle tickets. Well, we just had an announcement on that, so I'll pass on that. So while you're enjoying your lunch, I hope you reflect on the video honoring the veterans that we recently lost. But in addition to that, METV has put together another presentation of our own Bar Association honoring our own veterans. So Charles, if you can roll that. amazing amount of veterans in the association. Now I'd like to have our President-elect, Faith Brown, come up and introduce today's speaker.
Hope everyone's doing well today. It is a great honor that I get to introduce you to Colonel Larry Bustle, who is a native of Manatee County and is a 1953 graduate of Manatee County High School. After high school, he attended the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, and upon graduation was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force. He received his pilot's wings in 1958 and enjoyed a distinguished career, which included service as a fighter pilot and a test pilot with over 3,300 flying hours. Colonel Bustle flew 130 combat missions in the F-4D Phantom II aircraft during the Vietnam War. For his service in Vietnam, he was awarded the Silver Star, the Distinguished Flying Cross, 9 Air Medals, and the Purple Heart, among others. In 1967, he was awarded a Master of Science degree in Astronautical Engineering from the U.S. Air Force Institute of Technology, and in 1970, he graduated from the U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School. Later, he served in senior command positions in the Air Force and retired from the Air Force as a colonel in 1984. Colonel Bustle previously served for 7 years as mayor of Palmetto, and he served as Manatee County Commissioner from 2008 to 2015. Colonel Bustle served 3 consecutive years as chairman of the Manatee Port Authority. He served as the chairman of the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council and served on the Sarasota-Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization. He also served as chairman of the Manatee County Public Safety Coordinating Council. He previously served on the American Patriotism Celebration Task Force and the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Council Advisory Board. He is a past chair of the Sarasota-Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Manatee Veterans Council, and a past member of the Community Coalition on Homelessness and the Local School Readiness Coalition. He is a graduate of the Leadership Florida Class 24 and in 2007 was presented the Edgar H. Price Jr. Humanitarian Award at the Palmetto Youth Center Martin Luther King Jr. banquet. Colonel Bustle is married to the former Edie Stevenson, who is here today, and they have 4 grown children, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Welcome, Colonel Bustle.
My wife had a surgical procedure yesterday and she wasn't feeling too well today, so she stayed home. I'll still go ahead without her. One explanation. Well, before I start, I'll set your minds at ease. I'm not campaigning for anything, and this is not a campaign speech. Ever again. When I graduated from the Naval Academy in 1957, the Air Force Academy had not yet started graduating, so their first class was in 1959. So they gave an opportunity for graduates of both Annapolis and West Point to go in the Air Force. The Air Force needed professionally trained officers, and So for that, there's a 10-year period there where they allowed graduates to go into the Air Force. I flew fighters after I got my wings, and throughout all that period of time was getting ready to go to war, I guess, being ready. And after I got out of graduate school, I went to Vietnam, and that was 1968. I got to Da Nang on the 11th of February. I'm sorry, the 15th of February, 1968. And Da Nang is about halfway up the peninsula of Vietnam, on the east coast of Vietnam. And it was the subject of a lot of rocket attacks from the Viet Cong or the North Vietnamese. And we had bomb shelters that we were supposed to go to. First night I was there was a rocket attack. And I had been briefed on where the shelter was, but I had never been there. And so when the siren went off and we were supposed to go to the shelter, we all started running toward it, and I fortunately survived the dash to the shelter. But I did trip a couple of times, and I said, I'm not ever going to do that again. It'll have to be a golden BB that gets me. So I'm going to stay in bed. My quarters eventually was like a porta camper, sort of like an RV today, but we had 2 double-decker bunks in the one end and a little sitting room area in the other, and had sandbags piled all the way up to the roof on the outside. So it would have had to be a good shot that got me. So I stayed in bed for quite a few rocket attacks. Never got hit by one. My flying was mostly in the F-100 Super Sabre, and then after graduate school, I got checked out in the F-4 Phantom II. And I was assigned to the 366 Tactical Fighter Wing at Da Nang, thank you, at Da Nang Air Base, 480th Tactical Fighter Squadron. I was the fifth ranking major in my flight at that time. The flight was maybe 5 or 6 guys, and I was really the low guy, but I was also one of the few, even in that whole wing, who had been trained as a fighter pilot throughout. There was a desire on the part of many pilots to have a combat tour to sort of round out your promotion potential. And we had a lot of senior ranking guys who had been in Strategic Air Command or in Air Training Command, and had never really flown fighters before they got checked out in the F-4. So I wound up being one of the wing tactics guys because I had a lot of experience and graduate of the fighter weapons school, and so I wound up in a position of leadership. And also the wing was given the mission to be what was called a fast forward air controller. And what that means is that we flew in North Vietnam, 2 pilots usually, occasionally a navigator in the back seat. But our job was to essentially fly around and look for valuable targets in the North Vietnam. I flew over half of my missions in South Vietnam, many in close air support of Army, Marine, and other, perhaps Korean. So the fast facts were called stormy facts at Da Nang. And I got to be one of the six first fast facts. And on September 11th, 1968, I was on one of the first missions of the stormy facts out of Da Nang. We were trolling around, and by the way, we tried to stay at least 4,500 feet above the ground and usually 400 plus knots, and maneuvering all the time, both in altitude and in direction, so that nobody could track you and shoot at you. We found what we thought was a truck, a single truck. Knowing now what I know, it was a flak trap. Flak is the bullets that come up from the ground shooting at you. And they sort of faked us out, and anyhow, I was getting low on fuel, so I went out over the Tonkin Gulf to a KC-135 that was orbiting and plenty of fuel. So we refueled and came back to the target, and there I had a flight of 4 F-4s from Thailand that were there ready to roll in on the truck after I marked it. We would mark the target with a Willie Pete or white phosphorus rocket. So we reacquired the target, still was down there, and started talking to the flight from Thailand, giving them the instructions about the target. And I set up the switches and rolled in. We were up about probably 10,000 feet coming in toward that target. And rolled in and put the pipper, the sight on the target, and fired the Willie Pete rocket. And about that time, there was a very loud explosion in my cockpit. And it was really unusual because when you're up as high as I was, maybe 6,500 feet, normally they can't hit you unless they're really good gunners or they've got radar perhaps. In any case, I don't know whether that was a real good gunner or just maybe they had radar. So the explosion sort of scared me a bit, and my plan had always been if I was hit over North Vietnam, I was not going to be captured because I knew what happens. So I talked to my backseater and I said, "Hang in there, babe. We're going to make it out." I pushed the panic button, which cleans the wing. It jettisons the fuel tanks and also any ordnance that you might be carrying. So I cleaned the wing of the airplane, and I went into afterburner, which gives quite a bit of excess thrust, and told about that time there was another explosion, and best I can tell, that looking back, that was my backseater ejecting. So I started talking to him still, and I guess I was talking to myself because he had already ejected. He ejected and landed very close to where the target was. And the best that we can reconstruct is that he was captured at that point. but he had an injury of probably a compound fracture of his thigh. And he was taken to a cave system nearby where there was already one U.S. Air Force guy in that cave. He had been captured, shot down a couple of weeks prior, and was en route to Hanoi. My backseater was in and out of consciousness, and ultimately he passed away en route to Hanoi. So that was a sad thing. I stayed in the airplane, but the smoke in the cockpit was getting pretty thick. I couldn't really see the instruments. It was that thick, and I was breathing that smoke. I tried to go to emergency oxygen, and that system had been damaged. And there was it just shut off the flow. So I was breathing a little bit and holding my breath a lot and looking out the side. I could see the ground from the side, but I couldn't see anything on the instrument panel. And as I said, I went into afterburner, and that clean airplane really accelerates fast. So I don't really know how fast I was going, but I was looking to get at least 5 miles offshore because there was little chance of anybody coming out and picking me up if I was out that far. When I thought that I was 5 miles offshore, looking down, I pulled the D-ring down between my legs. Unfortunately, I didn't slow the airplane down. That was a big mistake because when I ejected, I was going so fast that I flailed. My arms and both arms and both legs flailed, and so I wound up pretty much crippled, but still a lot of stuff to do. I had to get ready to land in the water. I tried to deploy the life raft, but it wouldn't work. So I jettisoned it and inflated my LPU, which is a life preserver underarm LPU. And I remembered from water survival that you're supposed to try to face into the wind when you go in the water so that hopefully the parachute will fall in the water behind you and not tangle you up in the shroud lines that go up to the parachute. Unfortunately, my intentions were good, but it didn't really work because there was shroud lines all around my legs. I couldn't feel them, but they were there. The first rescue effort on scene was a Navy anti-submarine warfare helicopter. And they dropped a pararescue guy in the water with me. And he tried his best to get me into about 3 or 4 different kinds of survival gear. One that looks sort of like a litter, the other looks sort of like a bird cage, and one that's just a horse collar that went under your arms. I couldn't get in any of them, and I had already gotten my survival radio out when I was coming down in the parachute, and I described what my injuries were. I was pretty accurate with my legs and shoulders, but I was really, empowered with whatever it is that happens whenever you get in a tight spot. And so when I went in the water, of course, the radio went down in the water with me, but it was on a lanyard around my neck. And when I couldn't get in any of the rescue devices, I got the radio back up and drained it, and then lo and behold, it worked still. And there was a Air Force Jolly Green Giant rescue helicopter hovering over. I could see it over probably a couple of 100 yards away. He was just watching what was going on because the Navy guy was on the scene first, and there was a protocol that you didn't go in unless you were invited. So I got my radio up and I called Jolly Green. I said, "Hey, Jolly, how about come and get me, land in the water, and pull me in the door? Would you please? I'm hurting." And lo and behold, he did. I found out later he had to call all the way to Saigon to the headquarters to get permission to ease in beside the Navy helicopter. At the time, it didn't make much sense to me, but anyhow, he did that, and he landed probably, I don't know, 50 yards away from me, and he put a PJ in the water also, and he swam over to me, and the two of them towed me over and pulled me in the side door of the helicopter. And as I was looking up at the cockpit of the helicopter, it was my roommate from Da Nang. And I remember whispering to him that I love him. And I still do to this day. He's retired as a colonel, highly decorated colonel out in Tucson. So they pulled me in the door, and that's when first time I ever really felt a lot of pain. And so as soon as they got me in the door, they gave me a shot of morphine, I guess it was, and they asked me whether I wanted to go to the hospital ship, offshore Navy ship, or back to Da Nang, and I went back to Da Nang. So I spent the night in the infirmary at Da Nang. The next day they medevaced me to Tachikawa, Japan. While I was in the infirmary at Da Nang, someone said there's a captured Viet Cong who's in the ward with you, and I said, good. Big deal. But I was pretty much immobilized by that time. They had my arms in splints and my legs in splints. Got to Da Nang, to Tachikawa, Japan, and they operated on both shoulders to try to patch up the separation. And I wound up in a cast, both legs from the ankles all the way up to the hips. And I was too wide with my splints on my shoulders to get in a litter on the medevac aircraft. So I had to stay at Tachikawa, Tachikawa for about 6 weeks, and I finally got narrow enough to get on a litter, and they medevaced me back to the States. And ultimately, I got back to McDill, and my wife and family were in Bradenton. The Air Force had a physical fitness program at that time called, I don't remember what they called it, but anyhow, it was a lot of exercises, including, running in place and push-ups and sit-ups and stuff like that. And I finally got mobile enough that they let me out of the hospital and let me go to Bradenton. So we had our house. Our house was on 47th Street. I started working out, running in place and riding the bicycle, and I finally got good enough I thought I could pass a flying physical, so I called over and made an appointment. I went to the flight surgeon office and took a physical, and I passed it. And I had a card that showed that I'd passed it. And about that time, I also got 2 sets of orders. One set of orders was to go the space route in the Air Force. There was a place in Northern California which is close to now Silicon Valley. And I would have gone there if I took that set of orders. But the other one was to the test pilot school at Edwards Air Force Base. And that's what I really wanted to do, so I did. And then the next thing I know, I'm at San Antonio taking an astronaut physical. And some of the doctors there said, if you pass this physical, then you'll get back on flying status. And I said, excuse me, but I already am. And I showed them the flight physical that I'd already taken. But they didn't believe it anyhow. But I passed the physical. I had probably the shortest time on the treadmill of anybody that ever passed. Anyhow, it was sort of fun because part of the physical was a flight in an F-100, two-seater. And one of my old buddies from Lincoln Heath, England, where I'd been stationed in the F-100, he was there as the pilot that flew that airplane and they instrumented me, with leads from heart and respiration, everything you can think of. And we went out and flew and did a little aerobatics, and it was sort of like get back in the F-100. And my partner says, would you like to buzz the School of Aviation Medicine? I said, yeah, let's do that. So we did. We went over it, and right over the top, we went into afterburner. Afterburner in the F-100 was pretty loud. And I found out later that a doctor was briefing my case about the time that we went overhead. And he said, and there he goes now. So at that point, I guess there was no doubt that I was going to pass the physical. And I did, and I went to the test pilot school. Graduated in 1970 and was stationed. My first testing job was at Eglin Air Force Base in Fort Walton Beach. After that, I went to the Pentagon, and fighter requirements helped determine what the F-15s and F-16s and A-10s and all those airplanes would look like and what kind of capabilities they would have. And I sweated through it, but I got promoted to colonel and went to the National Defense University at Fort McNair. And then I went over to Turkey and was a base commander, which was a command job. Pretty exciting because they were in the middle of a lot of bombings and stuff like that. Survived that, and as a reward, I got back in the airplane again, the F-4 at Torrejon Air Base in Spain. My promotion board was effectively held at Torrejon. I didn't get promoted to brigadier general, so I'd always had a philosophy of life of as long as I can fly or get promoted, I'll stay in the Air Force. Couldn't get promoted, and by not being promoted, I was not going to be able to fly anymore either. So that sort of made up my mind. I came back to the Pentagon and retired in 1984. And I guess I'm going to pause at this point and see if there's any questions. Yes, not.
I've got one. So when you were heading to college and heading to the academy, were you did you already decided to be a pilot or try to be a pilot?
No, that's an interesting question because I never, you growing up in Manatee County, you never thought about being a career officer in the Air Force, although I did see a lot of airplanes flying over in World War II. I remember on my bicycle going to the side of a mid-air crash, two P-51s had run together. Both the pilots got out, and I actually saw one of them floating down. and I parked my bicycle and I was running across this field trying to get to the crash site, and there were bullets going off. I could hear them popping, and coming toward me was a policeman, and so I quickly put down the souvenir that I had and decided to go back to my bicycle. And at the Naval Academy is when they gave us an aviation summer, so we got to fly in a jet and as a passenger. And at that point, I realized that I could be a pilot, and I went in the Air Force because I liked the airplanes better than the Navy airplanes, and also didn't like shipboard life.
Steve,
Yes.
just a quick question.
Yeah.
What made you want to run for politics, become a mayor? I know it's a loaded question.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's a mental lapse or something. I don't know. I had a friend, a veteran who was here. We were together in the Veterans Council, and went to a Veterans Day parade. And when I was growing up, we used to have really big parades. In fact, I was in the band at high school, and we used to march in all the parades. And I was disappointed to see that there were no bands in the parade at all. And a friend of mine, Frank Bruner, was on the school board, and I made the mistake of asking him, why aren't there any bands in the parade? And I guess it was a question of money. So we started something called the American Patriotic Celebration. We raised money. Some of you may remember that, but we raised quite a bit of money, and we brought the West Point band down to help us raise money, and we were able to pay for the bands to the buses and the bands to go to the parades. For several years, we were able to get the parades back to the way they were. And I guess somebody told me one day, do you know anything about no, it was about the school, not the school board, the mayor job. Do you know what's going on in Palmetto? And I said, no, I don't. And so they said, you ought to go to some of the meetings. I did, and I said, I know how to do that job better than they do. And so I decided to run, and lo and behold, I won. Unseated a female mayor, which they said is almost impossible. After two and a half terms, 2 terms, I guess, as mayor, 7 years, somebody said, do you know what's going on in Manatee County? Unfortunately, I had the same answer. No, I don't. So I went to several of those meetings, and surprisingly, it was about as screwed up then as it is now. And I said, I know how to do that job better than they do. And I ran, and I unseated a female commissioner. And I guess I'd probably still be there, except for a little physical problem, a stroke, about 6 years ago. But it was quite an experience, and I think we did really do some good work there. We got water enough to last us for a long time in Manatee County. My dad was a county commissioner too, a one-termer.
All right. Well, Faith will thank you, Larry. That was a great presentation.
Thank you so much for coming today, Colonel Bustle.
You're welcome.
As a special thank you, we are presenting you with an official Manatee County Bar Association tumbler, and we hope that you enjoy it.
Well, thank you.
We really enjoyed you here today. Thank you.
Edie had a Oriental rug business for many years, and the connection to Turkey. And I was lucky enough to get quite a few of those from her before she wound it down. And I was telling Larry that one of them was a prayer rug, Muslim prayer rug, and we had it pointing the wrong direction. It was pointing west. And someone pointed that out to me, and I switched it around that night, and my bad luck ended all of a sudden. So, she didn't warn me it had to go a certain direction. Anyway, one thing I forgot, Ed Nicholas pointed out, Kiwanis, the Braden Kiwanis Club has a great veteran celebration. I think it's on Veterans Day, which is November 11th.
It's on November 9th.
It's the 9th? Okay. And everybody's welcome if you're interested in attending that. I mean, it's welcome, open to everybody that wants to go, and I can recommend it. Who should they contact?
Either Judge Smith or I. It is a great program. If you know any veterans, by all means, please invite them. If you're a veteran, by all means, please invite them. It's a terrific program. It really is. And our own Lee Hayworth is the guest speaker this year. He's got a pretty significant story to tell.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending today's meeting. It was fantastic. Thank you again, Larry, for sharing that. I understand that's the only time he has shared that story publicly, and it was very meaningful. So we very much appreciate you telling us that, which I know wasn't easy. Our next luncheon will be Wednesday, January 26th. And remember to get your raffle tickets on your way out, or at your next opportunity, which will be at the Christmas party. And we're going to adjourn today with the playing of taps to recognize the veterans both here and no longer with us. So if you'll pause for that. This concludes our meeting. Thanks for attending. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.